Welcome to the Velocity Podcast. I'm so excited about today's episode because you know I love all things AI, and Vaseem here is an AI expert. And so let's just dive right in. How's it going?
Pretty good.
That's good.
It's a lovely fall sunny day. I started the day with a lovely walk with my dog and went by the river and doing her little social media sniffing all over the place, right? Because I learned that somewhere on TikTok, maybe my wife told me this, that when dogs sniff, it's their version of how they collect information from the world. And so before I'd be taking her out for walks and I'd be like, oh, let's go, we gotta go for a walk.
Yeah.
Now when she stops at every post, it's like, oh, she's on Twitter today or she's on Instagram today. I'm like, you know what, you do your doom scrolling, you do your thing, I'm happy, you're having a good time, and she collects knowledge about her world. So
There you go.
Anyway, she was on social media today, I was happy.
All right. So what makes you an expert when it comes to AI? I know we've had a couple of conversations. I know you wrote a book.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so important for the future, or actually even for the present? And yeah, can you tell me a little bit of how you got into it and how you...
Yeah, for sure. So first and foremost, I wouldn't consider myself an expert in AI.
I know, it's always awkward to call yourself an expert.
No, I know a lot. I know a lot, and I'm quite confident in my skills and abilities to do things with generative AI. The beauty of it is I'm always learning as well. So as things progress, I'm also a student, and I think that's what makes me so great at it, because I approach it with that curiosity. So if we take you back about 2.5 years ago, maybe longer, when ChatGPT first became public, I had one of my coworkers come up to me and said, oh my gosh, have you seen this thing? And you're like, okay. And so when I looked at it, I was like, oh, this is neat. Like, starting to converse with a machine, right? And then, at first you're like, oh my gosh, now, AI overlords, and, your mind could necessarily go down the whole Terminator route and Skynet, which is totally fine. Like, fears are completely normal. Yep. Where I approached it, though, was more about that curiosity, and I was thinking about oh, this is neat. It can simulate human language, right? And I love how I'm wired for genuine connection, having intelligent dialogue, and so I just started with something fun. I was like, oh, what do you think about this, and what do you think about that, and a lot of conversation back and forth. And I was quite impressed by the quality and the brevity of the content that you receive from even something so simple. And so that actually, you talked about the book, and then I'll get to that later, and that's kind of where I started thinking about the book as well, where I was like, oh, I wonder what technologies exist for social good out there. And I started just asking general questions, and I was really, really impressed. And if you go fast forward 2.5 years, after experimenting with generative AI in terms of even creating imagery with Mid-Journey, or doing training and workshops and so forth for individuals and businesses, I see so much potential and value for human beings if they apply the art and the science of language models properly.
Yeah.
And where my philosophy of curiosity came from, aside from the fear and the whole what could happen with this, I kind of labeled it like this. I go, okay, imagine there's a being, or imagine there's an entity, or whatever you want to call it, that has almost infinite level of intelligence in terms of subject matter expertise on a subject, and then the variety of subjects. So from photography to nature to astronomy to writing to whatever the case may be, so many different subjects. So you take both of those tiers, infinite intelligence on a subject and on a number of subjects. And I'm like, why wouldn't you want to converse and have dialogue with something like that?
Yeah.
And so I took that approach, right? And it's fundamentally, it's changed my life. And I want people to be exposed to how it can change their lives as well. So anyway, I'm super passionate about this.
Yeah. Awesome.
So this, and I know you also engage in it.
Yeah.
You're just so I'm like, let's do this, right? Let's nerd out on Gen AI, right?
Yeah. The thing is, it's just that's exactly it. It's literally, and this is what I don't understand about people, and I think I'm just maybe naturally a little more curious. But it's we nowadays can sit at the foot of any genius and learn from them, whether you're going on YouTube or you're going to ChatGPT and being like, hey, if you were C.S. Lewis, how would you view this specific problem, or whatever, or name a philosopher.
Yeah.
And I'm just we can hear things and see things that my grandmother couldn't. She wasn't exposed to, universities, or the, genius thinkers over here, or stuff about the universe. She was limited because of time and space. And now I'm it's at our fingertips, and we just take it for granted, which blows my mind too.
Yeah.
And, I think it's just I don't know. I love AI. It makes my life so much easier. I loved it. I told you before ChatGPT came and broke the internet. We did. We were using Writer So it's be like, hey, you know, here, I need a blog idea, I'm going to talk about this, and then it would kind of like flesh out the idea.
Right.
ChatGPT is like so smooth, so good. And yeah, so when it comes to an everyday person using it, how would you suggest they could?
Absolutely. Oh, there's so many. And I'll actually, before I answer that question, I want to backpack off of what you were saying about grandma and having geniuses at your fingertips. One of the coolest applications of generative AI is that the learning aspect. So I work with people in all kinds of different departments, and like the people that have come to me and said, I can learn coding, like languages like SQL or Python and so forth. So one immediate application that I see from like let's call it just a regular person that's studying something, you can study things now, and as opposed to going on YouTube and scouring through a bunch of videos, which is still useful, or going through like Reddit forums or Stack Overflow or different sites to like learn something, you could actually kickstart your learning really, really quickly with language models like ChatGPT. And then there's a number of models out there, right? So ChatGPT is, you know, owned by OpenAI. Google has one, it's called Gemini, and all of these are free right now. And of course, there's like the tiered paywall versions of them, which are a lot more advanced. Even right out of the gate, though, the free ones are really, really
They're
good.
so good,
So to back to your question about like how could like a regular person use it. So, you know, I always start with my frustrations in life, right? And that's usually where genius or good ideas are born. So let's say you're struggling with English is not your first language, right? And you want to write a letter to someone, or I say a letter, who writes letters, but you want to write like an email or a note to someone about something. Start with that, right? Start with, because it is a language model, it's going to give you back text based on what you provided. So you could simply say, hi, I would like to, start with something maybe like a thank you note. You want to send a thank you note to someone for something nice they did for you. And you're like, sometimes you're like, I don't know how to construct this. So start with something simple like that. You know, I want to thank Cordelia for, being on my team and, putting in those long hours to work on a project. Talk a little bit about the specifics of what Cordelia did, and then see what, something like a language model would say. And I can tell you, you will be thoroughly surprised by the way that it constructs the content. You may not use it and copy and paste it. At least it gets you started to be like, oh, I really like that way that sentence was constructed, right? I'll use that, copy and paste that. So
that's what I love about the AI, because it like takes away that like blank screen, the blinking, light, being like, just write something, even if you don't like copy and paste. And I don't suggest people do copy and paste. It's use it as like an idea builder more than like copy and pasting.
Absolutely.
But it does get you, and I have used it for people's like cards and stuff, because I'm like, what do I say here? And then it will be like, I really deeply appreciate it. I'm like, good one.
Or like, the things you want to thank them for, like all of the little contextual pieces, like the content, almost like the jot notes in your mind. And then all it does is it constructs it in the like nice flow or format. And then let's say you don't even like the format that you get. You could go back in and edit it in. You could write it again, or you can go back to the original thing and edit it and be like, actually, can you put it in like a warm and friendly tone? Or let's say you have a difficult email to send to someone, right? And you want to be like super direct, right? And be like, hey, no BS type of thing. You can switch up the tone, and it's so helpful.
Awesome. I've done that. I've had like, I'm like, oh, this sounds horrible and not professional. I need to like make this sound better. So I go to ChatGPT and I'm like, hey, say a client is like late on payments, and I'm just like, I'll just put in my jot, like, late on payments, make it a professional tone, but a stern tone. And it's like, do, and it's so good. I'm like, oh, that sounds way better than what I was going to originally send.
Exactly,
so, I use it like a personal assistant that way. Like, hey, tell me, is this a nice tone? They're like, nah, let me fix this up.
And again, like those things that we're talking about right now is how you get started, right? And there's always this fear that, oh my gosh, like if I don't get started, like technology is going to go so far ahead, and like I'm going to get left behind, and I don't even know what to do, or it's already so far ahead, like I don't want to even get started because it's way beyond my capacity. Well, my advice would be like, unsolicited advice would be like, well, it's always going to be like that. It's okay to be where you are and go forward with what you have. Like you don't need to worry about like all the advanced AI models, and predictive analytics, and all that stuff that's like people are going to be doing that because they're already there. It's like leverage it for what is useful to your world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
That's
and that's okay. Like even if it's something simple as like thank you cards or I've got these ingredients in my pantry.
Yeah. Oh
right?
man. Yeah. Okay. So that's what my son did. So I use Google because that's my default because that's
Yeah,
how
like
I
recipes
grew up.
and stuff, right?
And my
Yeah.
mom doesn't use Google. She'll go to her recipe book.
Yeah.
So my
Amazing.
son's like, I'm gonna make an iced coffee. How do I make that? I'm like, I don't know. So because we have like a little espresso machine. So when I was watching him, he went to ChatGPT and said, give me a recipe. So meanwhile, I like go through these pages and the images and the stories to find mine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was good. I'm like, there's the future right there.
Right.
Like, it's the new Google, which on my personal thing, I'm like, okay, how does this go with search engine optimization? And that's kind of when it comes to AI where I'm digging in.
Yeah, like how do you
Because
get
it
that?
changes things. If people aren't going to Google, they're going to this. But yeah, I was just like watching him use it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I would have never used it for a recipe because I just like do my thing. And now I
Yeah.
do. It's like, here are my ingredients: chicken,
Yeah.
parsley, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
What's the meal? And they're like, spit it. Oh, it's amazing. I love
Right,
it.
and then you can format in like if you're like a spreadsheet user, you can be like, okay, can you format this output in a table? It'll literally create like your columns and your rows for you. You can copy that, put that into like a Google
Yeah.
sheet or an Excel document if you like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The other side is that if you're like a fitness buff, you want to hit your macros and things like that.
Yeah.
You could put in all of those requirements. You're like, okay, I'm allergic to this, this, and this. I can't eat these types of things, or I want to only eat these, and I want to hit these kind of like fitness goals in terms of my carbs and so forth, proteins. It can create like plans
I
for you,
know.
and it may not be perfect.
But
As
it's
I said,
good enough.
it's good enough
Yeah.
to like it gets you 80% of the way, and,
Yeah.
and a lot of that,
And
less
then
of
use
that.
your human brain.
Always use yeah.
I
if
use
there's,
it
if there's a
actually at the
disclaimer,
gym.
always use
Yeah.
your human brain.
Yeah, we have a brain. Let's
Like,
use it a little bit.
Yeah, like do not
So.
take it for face value because, and I say this as well, like humans also we make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So like you're gonna trust your family, you're gonna trust your friends, then you're gonna go to them for advice on certain things. At the end of the day, let's say you have a family member that has slept incorrectly the night before, or they're going through like a really difficult situation, like a tragedy, and they're just not right mental state. They're probably going to give you information that when you receive, you're like, I've got to discern that.
Yes.
So you always be critical and discern what you're getting, and then take what's useful and discard the rest.
Yeah, a good one.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, there's so many. It's interesting to talk to different people how they use it. I was sitting in an AI seminar, and this person was like, I'm going to give you 10 quick ways how you can use it in your everyday life. And one of the things, he's like, I don't speak French, but my kid has a French quiz. So he's like, grade 7, here are the words, make a quiz out of this. And it did. And I was like,
so cool.
just like right in front of our eyes, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so, I consider it in my context until I see other people doing other things. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could totally use that.
Right?
So it's really interesting to see how people use it. So like, I used it for kind of a workout, whatever it's called, like, regimen or something.
workout,
Like I'm just
yeah.
like, hey, I want to work out 3 days a week. I want to do backs and biceps and whatever, chest and shoulders and then legs.
Yeah.
What should I do? Because I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a personal trainer. Like, how many exercises do you do on one muscle group?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's 3 according to ChatGPT, and I want to talk to somebody about that.
Yeah,
But it's just like oh man, it makes life easy once you start considering like, can I turn to ChatGPT for this?
Yeah. And it's funny. So this may be for our intermediate/advanced listeners. One interesting prompt that you can set up is you can always start, and this is my go-to, so I'm sharing this. It's like, you talk about your fitness thing, right?
Yeah.
So you could be like, okay, you are a world-class fitness instructor. What are your top skills? And you ask that question, and you press enter. And then you're going to get a prompt of what a world-class fitness instructor's top skills are.
Yeah.
From there, what you can do is you can copy that text of those top skills, go back and edit that original prompt, and say, okay, you're a world-class fitness instructor. These are your top skills. Paste that, and then you can start from that point to say, can you help me build a fitness plan? Because now you've given the language model to say, okay, take on this role or this persona, because it has that vast infinite intelligence and so forth. Sometimes it will bring all that. Exactly. So you can actually laser focus on like a lens to say, okay, if you were this type of being with these skills, what would you tell me about this particular subject, right? And then it really changes the quality.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about prompts, because I find that some people use it and they're like, I don't know, I didn't really like it, like it didn't work for me, and I'm like, it's similar to the fitness thing, garbage in, garbage out is what I always say.
Yeah.
And prompts are of the utmost importance. So I always say to people, don't even use your first prompt. Like, your first prompt is just you getting the idea out there, and then keep building on it, kind of like a first draft of anything. You're not going to publish your first draft. So how do people make great prompts?
So there's a format that I learned many moons ago, and it's an acronym. So and we can probably share it like with context later, but it's essentially goes RACEF, RACEF, and I'll walk you through each one and the importance of it. So R stands for role, and I think I kind of illustrated what the role is. So you want to give the language model a persona or a role or an identity, let's say. Let's say, we talked about the fitness example, but it could be like you are a world-class like analytics leader or a chief analytics officer, whatever the case may be, for a particular problem. So you start with the role, right? And then from the role, the next important part of the prompt is what the A of the ASEF, which is action. So now that you have this persona, I want you to do X, Y, Z for me. I want you to build me a fitness plan. I want you to write me an email. I want you to help me think through X, Y, Z, right? Take some kind of action. And I think the C part of it, which is the next one called context, this is where the key is for good prompt engineering or prompt artistry or whatever they're calling it now. Context is the, how I would call it, the jot notes in your brain. All that information that you probably think isn't important is super important for a language model. And maybe like after I finish the RACEF prompt, I'll kind of like talk through like the differences between Google and prompt. I think all of that will all come together. But the context is super, super important because you're giving all of that information that is relevant to your particular problem. You feed that. And it doesn't have to be structured. It doesn't have to be perfect sentences. It could like Sherry, you were talking about, just like whatever the gist that you have. Provide that, and that's the C. And the last two are kind of optional. They're important depending on what you need it for. E is examples. So if you have examples of the output that you're looking for, again, be like, hey, there's this memo. I want you to construct it in this way with this style. Okay, that's great. And then the last one is F. We talked a little bit about F, the format. Do I want to output this in a table? Do I want to output this in like a bulleted point list? Do I want this output to be only one paragraph? And those are I think the two optional elements. If you hit the first three, R, A, and C, you're really, really good.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
So that's less prompting, and that framework seems to work for me with, as I think through like all of the problems that I have. I'm like, okay, well, if I need to, write an email on a really difficult subject, okay, who would be a master at this subject? Okay, let me give them that role. I already know difficult email. That's the action, and then the context is okay. What is it I want to say in this email, right?
Yeah, the context is king, I think, in just in the whole world. So especially when it comes to ChatGPT, and I find that's what people want. It's like they don't think through that at all. Like the roles, like when I heard about that, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. So that's what I try and encourage people. I like that acronym though, instead of just being like, give it information. So because it can walk through, and that is literally the perfect prompt. It hits everything you need.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you enough to get started. And I think if we take a step back, where you kind of mentioned this as well, like you're traditionally like Googling something, and now your son is like GPTing things, right? And I think it would be important to illustrate like the differences between what Google is really, really good for and what GPTing is really good for, because they're very different, right? So if I share a little bit about that, so Google, if you think about it, and contextually, it's like a giant repository. Think of it like a library, right? It knows where to find things. It knows like where to index them. So you can go to it with like really specific questions and be like, oh, what were the scores and how many teams won the Olympic medals yesterday, or what's the weather going to be like today? Very specific, because it can catalog all that and then go scour the internet and find that specific piece of information. Now, where ChatGPT or language models and Google differ is that it's like comparing like a toolbox to like a workshop assistant. And so you kind of mentioned this as well, where it's like your own like virtual assistant. And yes, GPTs are like almost assisting us with all kinds of things. So it's like the workshop assistant in this example. If you go to GPTs and ask it for very, very precise pieces of information, the way that GPTs work is that whatever information that you're sharing with it, like all of that context, the roles, all your stuff, it's thinking back and going through its vast repertoire of information and saying, okay, Sherry, you've asked me to do this or want me to talk about this. Let me predict what Sherry wants at every single iteration based on what I've been given. And that's a lot different than Google, because Google is simply looking to find you the information and point you to like a website or something. Whereas GPTs are going, let me help you think through this thing, or let me suggest things, or let me construct something and make something for you. So you wouldn't want to Google something on how to do something, or how to do something or to do something. It'd be like, where can I find something? Whereas GPTs, it's like, let me help you do, let me help you think, let me help you augment. Very different needs, and they serve different purposes, right? So you wouldn't GPT be like, what's the weather today? But you might be like, hey, if there's a tornado coming, how do I prepare for that?
Yeah.
Very different question.
Yeah, exactly. When I was heading to, so my family and I went to Portugal this summer. So I went to Google and I was like, what am I doing? So I went to ChatGPT and I said, act like a travel agent.
Yeah.
I'm in Portugal for 14 days.
Beautiful.
Da, 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 da. And then, yeah, because Google couldn't quite answer it because it gave me like all the answers. Because its only job is to answer you, right? And it's, again, how good you're putting it. Like your question is to get Googled, basically. But yeah, they totally are. They are different. Of course, there's a crossover.
Yeah.
And but it's interesting to see like, oh, now I'm turning to. It's just for me. I like seeing when my attention shifts. I'm like, oh, my attention's shifting from Google to ChatGPT. What does this mean for me? And what does this mean for work? And what does this mean for the future? Blah blah blah. Like I like thinking about that kind of stuff. I should ask ChatGPT that.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, we talk about like Googling things. So for example, like Google reviews, right? So like another cool use case that you can use it for is like, let's say you want to try out like a restaurant and you want to like, so we've talked a lot about like, you know, writing things and creating content. There's another way that like language models can be, and there's lots, but we'll talk maybe about a handful. Another way is like to synthesize information.
Yeah.
So let's say you have like a whole bunch of like Google reviews or customer feedback or things like that, or you want to try out your new favorite restaurant. And I'm providing these examples because these are fun examples, right? So let's say you want to go to like an escape room or something, and be like, okay, how is this escape room in terms of difficulty, or how was the staff and like how did they treat people? So you could actually go into like a Google review and copy all of that unstructured text with all little stars and all of that, and you can simply go into like a language model and say, okay, I'd like to learn about, you know, this escape room. Can you synthesize these results and tell me like, you know, who were some really, really nice staff members?
Yeah.
What were some escape rooms that are easy to finish based on this list of reviews? Dump all that text in there, and I'm quite confident you'll get the answer that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Right? Like, and you could do that for restaurants.
Yeah.
You could do that for all kinds of things.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, yeah, I've never considered doing that, but that's what I like about it too. Like, and I love reading, so I don't really suggest this either. But it's like instead of being like, tell me what Wuthering Heights is about, it could be like, hey, can you give me 3 major themes of Wuthering Heights and like how, you know, the main character, blah blah blah, and then it gives you obviously more information.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about it, like book reports and stuff like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I did just because I have high school kids.
Very
so
smart.
I know there's so many applications. We cannot obviously go through all of them.
No.
But I think it's going to be a tool that more and more people use, and it's nothing to be scared of, and it's really user friendly. Like for being so advanced, it's like it's accessible.
Yeah, you can get on your phone.
Yeah.
If you pay for the other ones, you can do like almost like a voice to text type of thing. If you've got like an internet browser, like there's a lot of ways to access it, and as we said, it's free. It's like a free tool right now.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm sure they're always going to be staying with a free model.
Me too.
It's anyway, like Google's free. They're not paying for Google.
Yeah, the advertisers are.
Yeah.
So
like the
so I think
just
eventually they'll figure out
It's
how
like
to
a utility.
monetize it better, and of course that's coming down the pipe, and you should not be surprised at that. All right, let's switch gears. You want to tell me about your book?
Oh, sure, yeah. So on the subject of like language models, I ended up writing this book called ABCs of the Future. And you know, all the images in here and even all the content was developed by language models. So the book is basically you know, it takes you on a journey from A to Z about different subjects, like I is for interstellar travel and J is for jetpacks. And you know, the general format of the book is it got like a cute little Dr. Seuss rhyme, a picture there, and then actually you can scan this QR code and it takes you to like a Google site that I've built that provides a lot more information about that subject. And I ended up writing it for parents and also caregivers, children and caregivers, like a Disney Pixar movie, right? You make it for kids, adults can benefit too.
Yeah.
And I wanted that interactivity so that parents and kids and teachers, uncles, and they could actually have dialogue about those subjects. Because, you know, I could sit here and lecture to anyone and be like, oh yeah, go learn this thing. You're more likely to learn something when you're enthusiastic about it and when you go and talk to someone about it. Be like,
for
oh
sure.
my gosh, you see this thing? Like, I didn't know this. And especially a complex subject like bioprinting, you know, you might, as an adult, might learn about it and be like, I didn't know that even exists. And then you can actually engage in it and learn together. So, yeah, it's available, ABCs of the Future. It's available on Amazon worldwide. So, yeah, if you got an Amazon Prime membership, 2 days it'll be at your place.
Perfect. Okay, and the last question I always ask everyone is kind of random, but it's what's on your career bucket list? So you do this, you're like, you know, all in on AI.
Yeah.
So what's on the career bucket list? What are you thinking the future holds for you? Or what do you wish it holds for you?
Yeah, and I'll take 2 streams on that. So I think from the corporate world side, I want to reach the C-suite. So, you know, be at the executive, playing at the executive level. And then if you look at outside the corporate world, I want to be a world-renowned author and someone that makes generative AI accessible to the masses, right? So if I imagine a world where we walk around and we see people applying generative AI to improve their own personal lives or their professional lives, I want to be a key player, like in the impact of making that happen.
Awesome.
Like that, like I'd be like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah, like a voice. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully this Velocity podcast is your first step.
So we're all
I'm just
learning
joking,
to
but
share.
your passion about it does make it, you make it really understandable and accessible for people, and then your passion just makes everyone, I think, a lot more excited about it, even seeing you like talk about it in you know, more social settings. So I think you could be on your way there, which is really nice.
Well, thank you. I'm super hyped about the whole thing, and
Yeah.
I just want everybody to be hyped up, you
I
know?
know, it's just
like,
cool,
let's
that's
go, right? Yeah.
All right, thank you guys for listening. I'm going to drop Vaseem's contact information. Feel free to give him a follow. And yeah, thanks for listening.